I'm always envious of the crafty hobbyists, like the knitters and the sewers and those who crochet. I don't really have the skill like that.
That's not true. You are totally capable of rewiring your brain to learn any new skill.
Oh, it's not that I'm opposed to it. I just got to get started.
Teen. Hi, Teen. Mad gardening. All right.
How come I can't see you, Teen? Where are you?
All right. 2 minutes and we're ready to start. In the dark. Teen, I love that last joke that you did about the March, the 31st March or 31 March. 31st of March. What was it? You're going to write it in.
The 31-day march.
Yeah, say the joke. Say the joke.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Teen.
Hi, everybody. What was the joke? The joke was everyone seems really tired today.
Yeah.
Because they just had a 31-day march.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Dean puts on his Facebook you put a joke every day outside your house, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, fun.
Keep it light.
Keep it light. All right. Well, I can start saying welcome back, everybody, if you've been here before, and if you're new, thanks for coming. We are here to talk about, Melissa, you got to do the screens though, because I don't have access.
Right. Good point. There we go.
So frequent Google Suites use, part B.
Oh, and so I had this up so that I would have it. And then now I'm sharing my screen and I don't. So let me get back out of here and into here. There, that's better. All right. As Teresa already mentioned, we are very grateful for our access to the land right now. And I'm more aware than ever of the fact that we have to be guardians over our land. And isn't it cool to see, even though our world is going through this terrible time, all of the things that are happening, like the dolphins showing up in Venice and things like that. So I'd like to acknowledge that the land upon which we are all gathered is part of the traditional territory of the Chippewa, Odawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations.
So we are your hosts. My name is Teresa Lopatron. I'm the English language learner support teacher. We have Brian Jubinville. He's the assistant tech support teacher, and he's going to be covering accessibility with reading today. Melissa Dent, she's an elementary school teacher at Rosedale this year. She's going to be covering Google Slides. And Kristen Sutton, she's going to be, she's an elementary teacher as well, Zanquit, and she is going to be minding the chat for us. So yesterday we covered a few things. We were talking more about forms and the writing tool. Today we're going to cover Google Slides, Supercharged, the assistive reading tool, and a little bit of translation. And then Friday, if you come back, we're going to cover Google Meets and Calendar, parents as partners, and then we're going to answer questions. So the 6 remote learning guidelines, here they are: asynchronous learning, pace, prioritize, available, intentional, and familiar. Keep calm and teach on. So asynchronous learning, again, it's not online learning all the time. We are, again, all in this together. We're learning, it's new to everybody. So this it's very flexible and can be completed at your own pace with your class. It's your students, your class. Pace, create experience, you missed one. Create experience for students to work at their own pace. Items can take longer, as you're probably all noticing being at home, especially if you have children. It takes 2x, 3x, even 4 times as long. It took my family forever just to get out of the house right now. So pace is a big one. Prioritize, less is more. Identify the learning that is most needed. Again, it's your class. You know where you're at with your students. Available, set up some office hours. We're going to talk about this tomorrow in your calendar, but block out some time each day to be online via Google Meets, email, or phone, whatever works for you and your class, your students, you choose. Intentional, which resources and activities will boost learning? What still needs to be addressed this school year? Use overall expectations. And familiar, begin with the tools you already currently use in Google Suites with your class. Introduce new tools slowly to your students. And these are the 6 learning guidelines. So Seesaw, here's their schedule. They have now completed 2 of their 3 sessions. These are all recorded and they're put on our website. So check them out if you use Seesaw as well. And here's our Google Suites support. 2 are already happened. And now we're on to the 2nd day. And here we are in the frequent Google Suites. So feel free to add your questions to the chat. We'll do our best to address your questions and answer them as we can. We're lucky that we have a few knowledgeable people in our audience today. Jeff Brosh and Paul, they're on the AT team. And I believe we have Matt here from secondary. Is he from secondary? He's going to help out in the chat. So they're going to help answer questions that we may have. And we have Kristen too, that will, if there's anything pressing, she'll definitely stop us and answer. But if not, we will definitely answer your questions as best we can by Friday. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing so Brian can take over.
Well, I thought actually, you know, Melissa, my first few slides, if you don't mind having them up.
Oh, not at all.
Once I get through the first few slides, then I'm going to just take over anyway. So you might as well have it up. If I need you to stop sharing, that will be fine too.
All right.
Okay.
We should remind everybody that if you text, call, or private message us, we probably aren't going to answer you because we're presenting.
That's correct. And also I want to, before I start the actual today's presentation, I wanted to mention I didn't add to the slide about what Friday was going to look like, and I intended to do that. So tomorrow, in terms of assistive technology, a couple things that I want to specifically mention that we'll talk about tomorrow is apps or different applications on iPad and Chromebook that allow students to stay focused, and maybe their parents can be involved, whether it's guided access or different extensions that can go on the Chrome web browser that allow students to kind of block out of other things and just stay focused. We're going to talk about something called Data Desk, which can allow teachers to control the different options and tools that are available on their students' read and write toolbar. That is possible to control. We're going to look at that tomorrow. And it also lets you monitor how much they're using the tools. So if, like last day, you're a teacher that has put some time into assistive technology tools and explicitly teaching them, you can actually monitor if the students are actually using them day in and day out. And then lastly, we're going to talk about our most unique learners. So if that's something you're really worried about, and you know, these sessions are really important to you because you're worried about those really unique learners, then tomorrow we're going to talk about some strategies and tools that are available to us and, for those folks, for those students. Okay. So yesterday we talked about being very intentional about using our assistive technology tools, and hopefully you've had some time to think about whether or not you want to do this with your whole class, or if it's going to be a small group of students that you're going to focus on. Today, as mentioned, we're going to talk about reading supports and how those can be used intentionally to help students be successful. Next slide, please. When I think about, oh, you know what, okay, here's my overview for today. Obviously, we're going to talk again about strengths and weaknesses, about Google Docs and how familiar and robust it is as a go-to. I know that in the chat, people have mentioned that Google Slides, sometimes the tools don't work very well on there. Today I was playing around with Google Forms, and the prediction tool wasn't working for a minute or so, and then eventually it did. But Google Docs is unique and it's very robust. So we'll keep that in mind as we use Google Read and Write. and know that we're in an online environment mostly. So almost all of our applications are going to be available to us. As long as we're in the Chrome web browser, our Chrome extension does have those read and write tools. We're going to talk about PDF Reader and Snapverter. So I know teachers are able to go to their classrooms and grab binders and grab the different resources they like to use and bring them home. So if you've got papers and handouts and graphic organizers and things like that that you want to get out to your students, we have the ability to do that and make it digital. And we'll talk about just different ways to use these tools to help your students be successful. Okay, next slide, please. So when I think about reading and the reading supports and how important they are, I think how many times that I sat with either a student or even my own children about, looking at a test and saying, geez, I thought you understood this. And we discussed this in class. It looked like you understood it. And I can remember a time when my own son brought a social studies test home. I think it was around grade 4. And there was a long answer question that he answered, and he didn't answer the question very well at all. And I had studied with him, and I thought, geez, you knew this. What's going on here? And when I asked him to read back the question to start, he had missed a couple of the long words and completely misunderstood the question. So I hope it's important for us to remember that even though we think we're using great words and we're giving our students really specific instructions by using those words, especially in the junior grades, so early junior grades, students can sometimes tackle that word as a whole word and miss it and make an assumption and move right on. So lots of times we got to think about, what is their reading comprehension? What is their decoding abilities? And even though they might be good readers for their level, when they have that proper text at that level, sometimes the words we use in our instructions and all that sort of stuff is not necessarily at their level. So we're looking to use the relative strength here in listening comprehension so that we can help students either with decoding, and even some students that are good at decoding, we want to make sure we're helping them with their reading comprehension. They might be able to sound out the word, but it doesn't mean they're understanding what they mean. Next slide, please. Well, I do want to mention actually as the other piece is sometimes we get together as a staff once or twice a year and we talk about EQAO results. And at times we can be amazed at how students, how successful they are in EQAO, and it sometimes really surprises us. And I'm sure there's lots of reasons why that happens, but one of the reasons I want you to consider is that for that one day and that one time, that moment, all of the materials that day are made accessible to them. Every single piece of text and instruction that they have to encounter and work with, they can listen to, and they're encouraged to do so. And with the responses, either they have the read and write tools available to get those ideas out, or they have a scribe. But no matter what, the accommodations are there, and then that test is showing kind of that day how they can perform when assistive technology tools are made available to them. As you're preparing in the next few days and into the following weeks, I'd like you to consider whether or not your reading activities are intended to teach the student how to read. So the activities, learning activities to read, or are you just having them read to learn? If you want them to learn how to read, then of course you should be having texts that are at their reading level. But obviously our read and write tools allow, if we want to have, in science, the social studies materials we're covering, even in math, they're going to learn read text so that they know what to do, their instructions, especially in assessments, just understanding what you're asking. Those are situations where they're just reading to learn or reading to do an assessment. And in those cases, it might be a good idea, I suggest that you go over the tools and how they're available to make sure that all those instructions and all those reading materials that are just for them to learn and take in information are accessible and therefore well understood. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to go over 3 learning spaces that the tools are available in, just to make sure that, you know, you may be available or unfamiliar with one or two, but make sure that you're confident in all three. Okay, so I'm going to take over now. So if I can get Melissa to get out of the, okay, thank you. And I'll share my screen. And Rod, I know there's a button here for me to click.
Yeah.
Oh, share computer sound. I see it.
Share, there it is. Share computer
I'm
audio.
not sure I need it as much today, but it's good to do that. Okay, so first thing I want to quickly review is that our tools are available on the Chrome web browser. So any website that a student's researching, getting information for, they can listen to that text, no problem. And there's actually three ways they can encounter that text. First of all, they can highlight, they can hit play.
A 3-foot deep watering hole in northeast India hums with buzzing insects.
But most students aren't familiar that there's the hover speech tool as well. And wherever they bring their cursor and hover,
a 3-foot deep watering hole in northeast India hums with buzzing insects and chirping birds. Suddenly 7 Asian elephants stomp through the grass.
They just have to remember not to be moving the mouse too much. Just move it and then let the mouse go and it'll start reading there. Also, if there's inaccessible text, so if they're looking at a map or some other picture that has text in it that isn't accessible at the time, they click on it, but nothing happens. Oops, I just opened up something within this website. So they click on it, nothing happens, or they highlight it, or they can't highlight it. There's also the screenshot reader that they can just draw a box around.
Pacific Ocean.
And it's worth noting that if they use a screenshot reader and it doesn't read very well, sometimes you can just redo it and it'll read much better the next time. In the chat yesterday, a few people mentioned that, wondering if Google Forms, how well the tools work in Google Forms. Same principle here. There's hover speech, you can hover over.
This is a text question. Limited space for type response.
Okay, those tools are available. Again, if you want to highlight it, hit play, that works as well. The talk and type tool works and the prediction tool also works. So I had both these open. I had spoken in Wonderful earlier and I had had my, I don't know if it's working, if it's lagged right now or not, but the prediction tool also works. But I thought I would remind again that if it's not working, especially when you get into questions where you're having students put, where's the paragraph one? Yeah, this is the paragraph one right here, is you may want to have the students have a separate window open and construct that paragraph in Google Docs and just copy and paste it over. That way they've got all the supports, they can do the type, tools, check it, listen process that we talked about yesterday, make sure they've communicated their ideas clearly and accurately, and then put it into their Google form and share their best work. Okay. Google Docs, the same sort of thing. And I hope to impress upon you today that all the great things that you do in the classroom, like oh, I'm getting some feedback there. You know, having model text and deconstructing things with students, highlighting components so that they recognize good components. Here's an inferencing model text where, you know, certain elements are underlined or highlighted so students can see, I've got a beautiful paragraph here, but you can write it too. You can create this as well, as long as you know what the parts are and you include those parts. But how does this connect to what we're doing today? I can click anywhere, and even though I've highlighted it, I can still listen to it.
This story offers many clues which may explain why.
Okay. So, and then all the instructions here. If you took a picture of this and just sent it as an attachment to your students in Google Classroom, just be careful. If you haven't made it accessible, then you've got some great instructions there of the 3 main components, but some of your students can't access it unless you prepared it in a certain way. So Google Docs is one great way to do that. Here's an example of a graphic organizer. again, we're tempted, we find these things, great resources online, whether it's Teachers Pay Teachers or just books that we have that have great graphic organizers in it. It can be worthwhile to take a little bit of time to recreate that in Google Docs. So when you've got little instructions here, and the student can just click on it.
Begin with a gist statement to the.
Make sure they understand it. And allows you to add in some of your own ideas. So if you've got sentence starters and things like that, students again can listen to those and see what they feel is effective to start their responses. And little things like having success criteria right in there so that the students can listen, also a big deal for students knowing exactly what the expectation is and helping them be independent with the work that they're doing. Thirdly, I'd like to show the PDF reader. So here I'm just showing Google Classroom. In this particular classroom, I've had Paul Gilbert be the teacher and share with me. So PDF Reader works with any PDF that you share with your student in Google Classroom or Google Drive. So when the student opens up the assignment and sees the PDF, they click on it in this environment, and they've loaded the PDF Reader extension. It does come free with our license that we purchased with Read and Write. The students will have to add the extension. We are working with IT, hopefully in the next week or so, that maybe this can be already added, but I know they're very busy with lots of different things, so it may not be a first on the list, but we'll try to get that up with an administrator. Anyways, as soon as they do that, the experience, once they've got it loaded, should just be click on the PDF, and now they're in, like any classroom paper can be created as a PDF and shared with the students this way. And they've got a whole list of tools in here as well. Highlighter tools. So for example, if you're having them answer questions, even if it's multiple choice and they're highlighting answers, click the highlighter, pick the color. Then they can go up and they can highlight, have them prove where they got the information from. Have evidence. Click on it, highlight the evidence. Okay? Find the answer, highlight it, have them do it in the same color. So this is my proof for number 1. Okay, so then they end up answering the questions much better because they're not just guessing. They have to go find the answer, have them highlight it so that they can prove it. Another neat tool while I'm in the highlighter section here is the one on the end. Rod, can they see my mouse, or is that not possible? Is that not happening?
Do you have at the bottom, do you get a menu if you hover sometimes on the lower left of the screen, depending on what this isn't a slide deck at all though? No.
I don't. Oh, I moved it. That's why.
Only if it's built into the app.
Oh, annotate. I see it.
You can see it, Brian.
You can see it. Okay. No, that's right. I'm not going to play with those tools right now. So yeah, so the last one there, right beyond the collect highlights tool, is this block read aloud. And if you know that you're giving the text at the right level to your students, but you still want to share a text online, and you're worried, like, how do I get them to read a text at their level when I know they can just listen to it? You can actually use this to highlight text. So say this text, I believe, is around a grade 6 level. So if you feel like you don't want the students to be able to listen to this text, you can use this block read aloud, and whatever you highlight, to you it'll look crossed out. But once you share it with the student, it'll appear normal, but they won't be able to select it. They'll just be able to, they'll have to read it themselves. And then at the bottom, you can still leave the question. So if they can listen to the questions if you like, and the answers if they like, but the text is made inaccessible. So if you want to work on learning to read, that's possible with PDF Reader as well. We've got a typewriter tool here as well. If I turn this off, turn the typewriter tool on, they can add text anywhere. They can add text, say in here. They can move it around anywhere on the screen that way. They can stretch it out to fit any space that they have available to them. Their writing tools are there. They can use prediction. They can use talk and type. Now, I will caution you that your answers in PDF Reader may not be as effective from your students as if they're using Google Docs, because, for example, in that type, tools, check it, listen, 2 of those tools are not available in this environment. Yes, they can use their tools, but they can't, they'll have no red or blue underlines. That's provided by Google Docs that helps them with their grammar and their spelling. And they don't have the check it tool. So they'll use those supports as well. So you may want to teach them for the short answer responses, work in Google Docs, copy and paste it back into PDF Reader and submit with this paper marked up that way. This pin tool is pretty neat. You can actually click basically anywhere and you can write a little instruction or a little tip or something like that. And of course, there's the play button there, so they can listen to your instruction if you want to give them a little bit of extra support. Now, I've also been playing around with this shapes drawing tool, and I think I have an example of, yeah, so here's an example of using that shapes tool. What I've done here is I've marked up a PDF, and for students that just maybe not have the stamina to read through this text several times to find answers to all the questions, what I've done is just use the shapes tool, picked line. Hold on, my Zoom stuff's in the way here. I can't move it very well. The shapes tool and the line drawing, and I've just drawn a line beside the paragraph and done the same thing beside each question that I want them to answer. And that draws their attention to where to find the answers for students that you feel might need that extra support. How am I doing for time, Teresa? Oh, about ready there, aren't I?
Yep.
Okay.
2:25.
Before I move on, a couple things that I want you to be aware of is we've talked about texts that are accessible so far and how you can use the tools in 3 different environments to access those texts. There are many texts that you have that aren't accessible. And I want you to know that our team's working very hard to get that information out to you in the best way possible. For example, we're working on a Google Sites page that hasn't been released yet. This is our reading and writing workflows page, and creating accessible text is a 3-step process. There's 3 videos here that Jeff Brosh has recently created. You click on this video, and he'll take you step by step, showing you how to get and create those accessible texts. And then down here, we also have links to, oh, this is not a live version, but you can go live with it though. Yeah, you click on the link.
Like an hour, boo. That's a long one because we all
and we've got also our workflow documents that show you step by step with screenshots how to work through using Scannable, using
how to have this.
and making it available in Google Classroom to use read and write.
What?
Jordan, you shut off your
So hopefully
mic.
by tomorrow we'll have a link available so that you have access to the stuff that we've started to post. I think that's pretty good. So maybe back to my summary slide, please. I guess I can do that myself. Okay, so once again, hopefully as we're planning, we're thinking about ways we can use our students' relative strengths and perhaps using either a whole group or small group approach to teaching our students how to use AT tools, keeping in mind that Google Docs is very robust. When other applications have a little bit error with using the read and write tools, we find that Google Docs does not. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning the 3 different environments to use read and write reading tools. And we've got Snapverter and PDF Reader that can make any of those classroom papers that you've gone to pick up available and accessible to your students. We went over how PDF Reader, we can use markups as teachers. And I should just quickly show you something very quick. You can notice how over here at the top right in the screen it says share annotations. So when you yourself are working on a PDF, and you want to save those annotations so that the students will be able to see them, you can mark it up as well, just like I did with highlighting those lines to draw students' attention to certain questions, and also parts of the text to find those answers. That's how I did it. I clicked on the Share Annotations button up on the top right here. And yeah, last but not least, your AT team is here to help. We're really keen to help you with your most unique learners that are struggling with reading and writing. We'll do that through the website. We're hoping that we can maybe do something similar to the secondary team and have hours that were available, and otherwise through email. Please contact us. Okay, thank you.
There, am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Just waiting to take over the screen.
Brian, unshare.
There we go. All right, I'm going to move you guys out of here so I can actually see. All right, welcome to Deep Dive into Google Slides. So you can see that on the bottom left of the screen here, there is a bit.ly. Feel free to type that into your browser and you will have immediate access to these slides. As I update them, the slides will be updated. Google is working really hard to keep up with everything that we're doing. And they've set up a temporary hub, like even as teachers are running into issues, they're immediately working in the back end to fix those issues. So this is a really great resource to go to. I'm just going to take you there to show you what that looks like really fast. So you can see like it's got all kinds of tutorials here for you. Like here is your home toolkit, and then wherever you're stuck, they've got it ready for you to go to instantly get into. So I think they're doing fantastic. So yesterday, I started by talking about how to add accounts, how to log in, how to remove your accounts, how to sign out of all your Google accounts. And then I built this presentation for Google Slides with the table of contents linked down here with all of these so that it's clickable, and when you link on it, it goes there. And then at about 11 o'clock, I decided that since you were advanced users, many of you already knew this and didn't need it. So it's there for you if you want it. If you want to go back in the slide presentation and you have a particular question about Google Slides, all of that is there for you. But I thought I would focus just on what Google Slides is for remote learning and why it is such a great tool to use. So the first thing I want to stress is don't try to like learn all kinds of new technology. Your brain is going to explode. Stay with what works for you and what works for your students, and don't try to introduce too many new tools because you're going to stress them out as well. That being said, I absolutely love Google Slides, and for me, I think it's a fantastic way to communicate with students. It gives them choice, authentic purpose, it encourages collaboration, and it showcases greater depths of knowledge, which are all the things that we're looking for in the 21st century. So the other thing that's great about Google Slides is it's going to work offline. So if they could get their parents to drive them to a coffee shop, they can download what you have, the work that you have for them, and then they can work on it at home. They don't necessarily have access to the internet. That being said, it's not going to update if you add anything until they reconnect. All right, so this is your table of contents specific to remote learning. And this is your link that will bring you back to this table of contents at any time. But these are the things that I think, for me, are the most important part of Google Slides. So the first one is the closed captioning. I don't know if you've noticed, but at the bottom of the toolbar here, we have this little button. Can you guys see that? It's It's really weird talking to complete silence. There's this little toolbar that has CC on it. When I click that, it automatically will start closed captioning everything that I say. So if I'm recording my screen and talking about the slides, the students will get that. Also, I find it very effective. Well, for me, I turn it on when somebody else is speaking to keep me focused. Because I'm a visual learner, it helps keep me focused and hear what they're saying, especially if there's noise in the background. So I love closed captioning. Here's one way to use Google Slides. So you can just create a morning message, create one set of Google Slides. Don't change the link. The students will have access to this link every day because it's not an attachment. They always see the updated version every time they access it. You can pre-prepare slides in a different Google Slide presentation and then drag and drop it over when you are ready to add that day's work. But here's a tip. Put the new stuff at the top because the kids don't want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you are looking for an example, here is the morning message example for you. So you can see how this teacher did it and what they do. So they do a little short video, they have a weekly goal, they have a quote, some happy news, things that they want the kids to know. Here's another tip. Color code your slides. You can change the background in the slides to indicate what kind of a slide it is. So have a yellow slide that's always a date. Blue is always instruction. Purple is always do this. It's just a great way for those visual learners. If you are looking for this is how to color code your slides, by the way, in case you're not sure, you go into the background. And I think I linked in this particular template for you if you want it. Hyperlinks. Hyperlinks are the most amazing thing ever. I link everything to everything. So you can literally give them one piece of paper and everything they need is already in there. This is how you hyperlink a table of contents. Oh, I think I embedded the YouTube video because I talked over it. But that's how you hyperlink a table of contents. Here is, so hyperlinks and hyperdocs. Hyperdocs are fantastic. There's tons and tons of hyperdocs out there. This is just one example of one teacher's hyperdoc library. And you can see it's got a gazillion things on it. Here's another tip. Hyperlink a Google form response. So if you've built a Google slide presentation and you're looking to do some assessment, you have them do whatever the task is, and then they click on the Google form and it takes them directly to that Google form for their assessment. This is how you format a slide. I feel like I should show you guys how to do a hyperlink though. So I'm going to get out of here and show you. So if I want to hyperlink this particular one, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go here and I can hyperlink it to anywhere within my slide presentation, or I can hyperlink it to somewhere else. So I can look at the slides in the presentation and I can hyperlink it to whatever I need it to go to. So let's say I hyperlinked it to this one. And then when I click on that, it'll take me to that slide. Reloading. There we go. All right, so this is formatting a slide, changing the background, adding a video. I'd like to point out here that I have way too many words on the screen. So when you're building Google Slide presentations, you want to keep the words as much as possible to a minimum. However, I wanted to remember to say this to you. Be aware that your students might have connectivity issues. They may not be able to access the video, so always get the same information in text if you can. You can add a video from YouTube, absolutely, but you can also link it directly from your Google Drive. I recommend Google Drive because of the privacy issues. Just be aware of those privacy issues. If you need to create videos to put into Google Drive, Screencastify is an amazing, and it's free to do that with. And that's how I build a lot of my stuff. I love Screencastify. Another little tip. I know that if you're like me, you hate your voice. Don't worry about it. You're not here to win an Oscar. The kids just need to hear you talk, right? And you can connect them to another teacher who's done a YouTube video, but really they want to hear you. They want that personal connection, and they don't really care how your hair looks that day. Shorter is better. I have ADHD, so I have a very short attention span. When I'm building a clip video, the longest I usually stay on any one video is 3 seconds. So 4 minutes or less is what you want your videos to be. The absolute maximum is about 12 minutes. That's the absolute maximum, and it better be like riveting and super important for you to do it. Give them lots of short, succinct videos, really short ones. Don't make a super long one. They're not going to listen to it. So this is how you add a video. Double check that you're sharing permissions in your Google Drive are open to the public. Otherwise, they may not be able to access it. Now, you can lock it down to LKDSB if you want to, but for the purposes of remote distance learning, I might open it up so that they can get it if they have the link, right? When you're creating a Google slide, you can do this, right? Create a bit.ly. I love bit.lys. This is another tiny URL. Many people like these as well. You do have to be careful about your sharing permissions in here as well. I've done it before where I've created a bit.ly and then kind of forgotten that I needed to share with everybody. This is how you arrange things on Google Slides. And here I wanted to show you that there's tons and tons and tons of stuff out there. So I didn't remake this because Jake Miller made it and he did an amazing job. If you have the energy, feel free to go onto Twitter. And these are the hashtags that are trending right now for Learn at Home. And these are all the people that I go to get all of my information from. And I will link in their websites. All right, you can now add audio to Google Slides. For the longest time, people preferred PowerPoint because they couldn't put that audio in. So you can insert audio, but it has to be in an MP3 format. You can also put audio in speaker notes, which means that you can type with your voice. So if I go out of here again, and I click onto here, if I hit Command-Shift-S for me, because I am a MacBook user, it's going to pull up for me. Oh, sorry, it just totally did a reboot. Apologies. It's going to pull up for me the voice typing tool, which you can also access through here. You can go into here and hit voice type speaker notes. Scroll, 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 scroll. Now I'm worried I'm going to run out of time again. It goes this down. Excellent. Okay, so you can go into here, you can click this, you can do this or hit the keyboard shortcut, and it will start to type whatever it is I want to say in my speaker notes. So if you're building a Google presentation and you don't want to forget to say something to the students, it's a great way to add stuff without actually having to type it all out. Oh, I wanted to give you all of the shortcuts, but I didn't want to take you through all of them. So this is a link to all of the Google Slide keyboard shortcuts. Oh, you might like this one. This is how you do a forced copy, which means that if I have a template that I want the kids to use, but I don't want all the kids working on the same template, I can force them to build a copy in their own drive. So here's the GIF down here, but let me show you. So if I go into something that I want a copy of, I get the URL link. So let's say I wanted a copy of this particular presentation. Let me show you this. See how you have the long URL link? You go to the end, see where it says edit? You delete that, you add the word copy in, and it will automatically request that you make a copy of it instead of letting them have access to the original presentation. I do this a lot, and here is how you do that. Another one that you might find really useful, maybe you have a presentation that you do not want them to copy for whatever reason. This is how you lock down the presentation so that they can't print it, they can't copy it, they can't do any of those things. So it's all in the permissions here. When you go to get the shareable link, which is your sharing permissions, you can go into advanced and you can lock down the presentation so that they can't copy it from you. Of course, that doesn't prevent them screenshotting it, but at least it's there. Oh, I was going to talk about choice boards with Google Slides, but I feel like I'm running out of time. Here is for your kids at home that are maybe need a little bit of extra stuff to do. This is how you code with Google Slides. And this is an amazing well-being site that I found that I threw in there for you. And we don't have time to discuss Google Keep and Jamboard, even though they are amazing integrations of this. So maybe at a later time we'll do that. Let me go to here. Ooh, I think I actually stayed on time today. All right, so here's the Elementary Educator Remote Learning Resource. And it will have for you the timelines, all of the Seesaw things, and all of the Google Suite things, all ready to go. So this recording will be there for you in case you want to go back and scroll through to relearn all of this stuff. Tomorrow, Trevor and Matt, right, Matt, are going to be online to support you at 10 o'clock. If you go to this Zoom link, it's particularly important because you don't have access to your teacher tools if you need to reset a student's password because they just can't seem to be able to get in or they've forgotten their password or whatever. Trevor and Matt will be able to help you.
Melissa, all next week too.
All next week? Fantastic.
Yeah, Monday to Friday next week.
No, thanks for interrupting. I hate talking to silence.
Sorry, not Thursday because I think that, or not Friday because I believe that's Good Friday, but Monday to Thursday following week as well.
And I was on there today. They were great. It was a lot of help. So thank you.
All right, do you want me to stop sharing? This is where we want your feedback. Please, please give us feedback. So we actually went through the feedback, and that's why I changed my presentation today. So whatever you need, put it in the feedback, guys. I'm going to stop sharing so Teresa can take back over, yes?
Okay, we just needed to show that last slide about program.
Well, you show that one.
I can't show it. Anyway, thanks everybody. We will be answering your questions. Is there any, Kristen, any questions that we need to answer right now, or can we'll save them for tomorrow?
There's one troubleshooting right now, but the last question asked about
your synthesizer's on again, girl.
Lockdown, or was it possible?
Whoa. Not working.
Access the link.
Is the slideshow locked down? No, Martha, I did lock this down.
Yeah, that one.
Just before participants go, can we invite folks to turn their cameras on? If you want to see who's been in the meeting with you, you go up to the right-hand corner of the person view and change that to the gallery view. You should be able to see a few dozen people show up, and you can wave to one another and say, hey, thanks for joining in.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And a couple pages you can slide over. Really cool.
Cool.
Well, yeah, in the top right corner, you can see a little waffle. Click on that. Wow, look at that.
Very cool.
Only the host can share.
That was a great idea, Rod. I like that.
Continue. Stop share. Stop share.
Oh. Am I not stop sharing?
What's that? Oh my goodness, I see a whole bunch of people. Thanks everybody for joining in. We'll leave the meeting running, but I'm going to stop the recording. If you have further questions, you want to chat for a minute, we have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Big wave to everybody.